Ladies and gentlemen, my name is David Ruff. We're going to be talking about today what the federal banks of the world, not just the US, but all central banks are going to keep raising rates until you have no savings left and you might be going broke. This is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be looking at some of the charts of the United States and look outward to some of the other countries that are going to be involved as well. Let's have a good discussion about it. Let's get right into it. Let's pull up our first article of the day. And I have to say, I'm a little bit happy about some honesty for once. Let's go through this article. This is from The Intercept. Top Fed official. The Fed says they will keep at this until your savings accounts are drained. I think this is very good that people will actually say a little bit closer to what they mean, because nowadays we don't have a lot of honesty in the press. This article, as you notice here, it says that the attempt by the Fed to slam the brakes on the U.S. economy and stomp out inflation by them raising all of these rates. Now, to do this isn't just one person who declares like a pharaoh. It's 12 members of the Fed's open market committee voted for the increase, all 12 of them. One of them was this lady, Esther George, the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. And she went on the radio, and this is what she said. I think it's very important that we read this. We see today that there's a little bit of a savings buffer still sitting in households. So you have some money still in your savings account. That may allow them to continue to spend in a way that keeps demand strong. That suggests that we may have to keep at this for a while. Now, I have to interject because, number one, I'm applauding her for her honesty here, because she's saying we have savings in our savings account. So that'll keep demand strong. Remember, there is only two types of economies, and it's either demand or supply. They call that the two sides. You learn that the first day in economics. Supply and demand controls everything, right? So the two sides of the economics, whether you have Austrian economics or Keynesian economics, one is supply side, one is demand side. So when things get very, very expensive, how do you get the price down? There's only two ways. You either supply and demand. So number one, if there's a lot of people requiring cups, for example, well, go out, make some more cups, and then the prices will come down as we make more of them. The other way to reduce demand is to make all water cups, for example, $3,000. And if we make the price at $3,000, then nobody will buy it. And then you can celebrate that nobody's out buying any of your cups. Therein lies the problem. This is the two sides. So today, no central bank can overnight just invent a bunch of water cups or something, whatever it is. But what they can do is raise the price so high that nobody could ever afford those $3,000 cups. And that's what they're doing essentially with inflation. And what she noted was, we're going to get demand down. We're going to take all the money out of the people's pockets before they have a chance to spend it on anything. And that's their way. To me, that doesn't make sense. If we need stuff, we need more stuff, not less stuff. But anyway, that's my opinion. All right, so let's reread that. We see today that there's a bit of savings buffer in households, and it will allow them to continue to spend it in a way that keeps demand strong, and they don't want that. So there is the problem, according to the article, that Americans have too much money. But this goes to the same places, me in Canada and so on and so forth, all the other countries, Australia, Europe. Now, Paul Volcker famously said in 1979, if you guys don't remember, Paul Volcker was head of the chair. He was the chair of the Federal Reserve in the U.S. So if you hear those stories back in the 80s when interest rates on your mortgages were hitting 20%, then that was him. Now, he crushed inflation because inflation was sitting at like 10% in those years. So by putting the rate so much higher than the rate of inflation, that actually did something. So what lessons can we take from that today for ourselves? If we have inflation sitting at 8 or 9% today, we would need a rate of 11%, 12% in order to push down that inflation. Now, we have seen the carnage that has happened only with raising rates 3 point whatever, depends on the country that you're in. Imagine if they raised it by 10%. Wow. It would be a doozy. Anyway, let's continue on. So this is what he famously said: the standard of living of the average American has to decline. Now, that is what he said back in 1979. And every single recession since then, the Fed doesn't want to come out and say it so blatantly, but they do want to dance around that subject, that people are spending too much, having too much fun, and they cannot stand for that. So if we go look at this personal savings that is being talked about, let's back it up like maybe even 10 years. Now you can go check this out on the Fred data. This right here, if you go look, this is billions of dollars seasonally adjusted, but you can see the rate pretty much stayed the same from 2013 all the way to 2018. It ticked up very tiny in 2019, but then once we started printing a lot of money, people were receiving a lot of checks. We could see that the number absolutely skyrocketed. It 500% up. And what we're seeing now is this constant continuing drain of savings accounts. So if you look at where the savings accounts are today, they are vastly lower than where they have been for a long, long time. In fact, if we were going to back it up, the last time we saw it at this level was in the middle of the last recession in 2009. So yes, they are still draining our savings, but it is still not high. Now, this chart, if you look at it, it takes a second for you to understand. You see inflation is on the side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. And then it shows you what the interest rates have been for the governments. But the main point to look at is if you look at Norway, their inflation has gone up even though they've raised rates. Australia, inflation has gone up even with raised rates. Sweden, interest rates have gone up, so has inflation. Canada, where I'm from, interest rates have gone way up and inflation has not slowed down. If we look at United States, inflation is up even though they have raised rates. So what you can see in the chart is all these diagonal lines, and they're always sloping up to the right, showing you countries are spending more and more and more money. So if we try to take that into account and we go look at what Sweden is saying, Norway, the EU, Britain, if we go through all of the countries, they are all saying all these interest rates that we have put up so far have not dampened inflation. And they have all been like on the same WhatsApp group and saying, say this, because they're all saying the exact same thing. We will continue to raise rates until we hit 2% inflation. In my opinion, and who am I? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a real estate broker in Toronto and an investor myself. But who am I? I don't see how they can raise rates to 10, 11% and still have their economy functioning. I think we're going to walk into an economic heart attack long before they hit that. Now, I still think that they have a room, like a ways to go. And they always say that they will raise interest rates until they can't, until it breaks. And Jerome Powell just said this past week that he would rather over tighten, raise rates way more than what he should have, and then just turn on the money printer if he goes too far. So he's literally telling us what he's going to do. So now might not be the best time for you to be looking for an investment property, but you guys know I'm always saying there's always deals out there. I'm always looking. Hopefully you're looking too. If you know one person that this could help, please just send it to that one person. We're trying to grow the channel. Please show some love. Give me a little thumbs up and like this video, subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me, you guys. And I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you like that video, you might like this one and maybe something like that.